The voice that pushes me to strive, and that is the voice of my inner critic. The inner critic. So the inner critic is that part of our conscience that judges us and condemns us and accuses us and tells us that we're not good enough and we should never stop striving. And we all have one of these. The inner critic that we have today was shaped in our past. It was shaped by the traditions of our past and the environments in which we grew up in. And so a lot of times if you had someone critical in your past, it sounds a lot like their voice. Oh yeah. And those, what Jesus calls, those are the traditions of men. The traditions of men that we've all grown up in with our environment and our media and all the people in our life. They defined for us a long time ago what is right and what is wrong. Now Paul saw this in the Corinthian church with some new Gentile Christians who were using the traditions of men to tell them what was right and wrong. They were worried that if they ate the meat that was sacrificed to idols, because it was really common in that time that when they went through the pagan rituals, the meat that was left over, they sent it to the market. So they were afraid that if they ate that meat, they would be wrong and they would be sinful. And that was what their consciences told them. Their consciences judged them and accused them for this act. But this is what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 8, 7 through 8. Some people are still so accustomed to idols that when they eat sacrificial food, they think of it as having been sacrificed to a god. And here we go. And since their conscience is weak, it is defiled. But food doesn't bring us near to God. We are no worse if we eat it, or no better if we do. Their consciences were weak. They were not strong enough to discern what was truly right and wrong. And that is what it is to strive. In the areas that we strive, that is where our conscience is weak, because it is not discerning what is truly right and wrong. And then it says their consciences were defiled. And another translation of that is their consciences felt guilty. So much of the time that we feel guilty, that is that worldly sorrow that is coming from our conscience and not truly godly sorrow. We can get a lot of guilt and use that as a motivator when it's not actually something that is coming from God. Our inner critics speak loudly in these areas of our lives where our consciences are weak, where they're guided by our past and not by God. And I had no idea that that's what was going on. You're probably not aware of that. But they're the parts of our mind that have yet to be transformed by the Holy Spirit. And so what they speak is rarely true. But the inner critic is the voice that steals our rest. So there in the grocery store that day, I grabbed the People magazine, I pay for it, and I just like stick it in the bottom of my bag, and then I vow to do better when we get home. And I got back, and here I am, in Boulder, the land of moms who are triathlon champions, who also double as sportswear models, because you can never just be one. And everybody in my neighborhood seems to have the magical body. I mean, everybody had like one girl in high school who had the magical body, but somehow they all moved to my neighborhood and I'm surrounded by the magical body. And I'm thinking, how am I ever going to feel the same way about my body here that I did in St. Simon's? God, please, can you show me how to bring my vacation rest home with me here?